The Hi-Lux Phenom UHD spotting scope utilizes extra low dispersion elements for a sharp, high contrasting image and no chromatic aberration. With the Phenom UHD spotting scope, you can expect superb optical quality and comfortable glassing for the optimal viewing experience. Now, those of you who have been through our channel before may know me, but let me introduce myself now. I'm Scott with Hi-Lux Optics. And if you've seen any of the videos I've put together, you know I do a lot of filming through a spotting scope. Mostly, let's be honest, because I love seeing those bullets fly through the air. Now, about 4 months ago, you would have noticed the image quality in those spotting scope pictures change. And this wasn't because I got a new phone to record with. This was because I was happy to test out the next prototype of what we now have in production, the Phenom UHD spotting scope. Let me go ahead and pull everything out of the box here. I was a little over-eager, and I got everything unbagged before I even set up this camera. But that's how much I wanted to use this. Now, this box may seem honkin' big, but that's because this spotting scope isn't tiny. Here we go. It features an 85mm objective lens for gathering as much light as you possibly can. Over here on the eyepiece, we have magnification running from 20 power all the way on up through 60. But in the future, if you ever wanted to change that out, you can go ahead and swap the eyepiece. We'll get to that in just a little bit. And that's just one of the things I've been excited for in the latest prototype of this. Now, before I go any further, let's run over the things that would come in the box so I can get those out of the way and get right to the meat of the issue. So you have here a little case, protective case that goes on it. I'll put this on a little later, along with the eyepiece cover and objective lens cover. For now, let's move those over here. You have here the cap for the objective lens. It's a pretty tight fit, so we'll put that in a little later as well. Cap to cover the top of the eyepiece, and if you have everything disassembled, this covers the lower element of the separable eyepiece, and this plugs right into where that eyepiece would go. You could seal this whole thing right on up. But for now, let's go over everything else that this comes with. So, starting from the front end here on the objective, again, that's an 85mm objective, brighter than our previous versions. Features a built-in sunshade. And in case you're wondering what that weird divot is, that's so you can have a rough lineup with whatever it is you're looking at in case you're zoomed in way too far. Right here in the middle, we have the attachment point for a 1/4-20 thread, or you could remove it to have another larger standard size. It has here the pin insets that, much like the mounting plate under the camera right now, help keep this aligned and direct with the head of whatever it is you're mounting it on. If you're going to be using this alongside your bench or you want to be sitting down, you could of course turn this in relation to the eyepiece. I tend to leave it upright, and if you ever lose your place, you'll notice there are slight clicks and divots every 45 or 90 degrees to help you go ahead and get aligned. I'll lock that right up. Back here, we have the focus. It's got a pretty broad range and a pretty wide amount of grip, so you should be able to get pretty dialed in on what it is that you're looking at. Wow, it keeps going. And there we go. So, you got a bit of room and precision to work with. Now back here in the kit, this spotting scope is going to come with the 20 to 60 power eyepiece. It's plain, no reticle in it, but we'll be getting to that soon too. The eyepiece has a built-in cup that you can rotate to give yourself a little bit of clearance, or get it on out of the way. There's all the magnification so the camera can see it. And you may have noticed this little orange line. That works along with this little switch here. In order to remove the eyepiece, hold that switch, rotate, and we're out. You'll notice a pin right here. That is moved out of the way by this little lever. And this orange mark is where this orange line would fit up when you want to put it back in. Go until it clicks, and you're good to go. Now this scope is phenomenally sharp. We shoot out in the desert, so maybe we get bullet trace a little more often than your standard shootout in the woods, but I have to say, every time that I've taken this out, I've captured trace. Now admittedly, we have been shooting bullets bigger than a .22 most of those days, but I'd like to think that's a good sign that this glass is pretty darn crispy. One last detail I'd like to discuss before we hop on back to swapping out the eyepiece. The frame of this is made out of a magnesium aluminum alloy, so that means it's actually quite light, although there is fairly large glass, so maybe that balances out. Now let's go ahead and swap this eyepiece out. As I mentioned, there is no reticle in this eyepiece, but there is in this one. So, hold that lever, rotate, and your eyepiece is off. Let me go ahead and take this moment to demonstrate the cap. If you wanted to use that for transport, it was an option. In here, I have the first of our replaceable eyepieces. This is a 33 power fixed, so prime lens, that has a reticle focus ring and a reticle leveling ring. So if you were to use this rotating collar to spin it 30 degrees so you could see it down by your bench, you could rotate the reticle to level it out if you wanted to. And of course, the eye cup that can move in order to give you some eye relief. Now for this, we'll line up this line with this dot here, like so. Rotate until the click, and there we go. This is really going to help you if you're going to be helping to call shots or measure targets downrange. We use this one mostly for wind calls or to confirm the size of targets if we don't have our handy measuring sheets with us. Thus far, we've also used it to figure out bullet drop, grouping sizes, really anything that you can use a fixed reticle to measure. 33 power provides some pretty ample room. We've had no real issues viewing out to 600 yards or more. And we plan to take this to the desert soon so we can take a look out at about 11 or 1200 or so there. The eyepiece sits up at a 45-degree angle, giving you the easy ability to have it mounted in front of you and to look right on through it. Of course, unlike a scope, this will sit much closer to your eye, so you'll pretty much be pressed right up against it. This fixed 33 power eyepiece with the reticle is going to be among the first that we offer once we start putting them up in our store. And in the future, we should have other replaceable eyepieces available as well. In the kit, again, you'll be getting the 20 to 60 power with no reticle and a nice clean view all the way downfield. Now let's go ahead and swap this back to the eyepiece that comes in the kit, and I'll go ahead and put the covering on it. And there we go. Now that eyepiece is in, let's go ahead and get this all put together. It's a little bit like putting on a sock. If your sock were going onto the Cadillac of spotting scopes. Slip this over here. Slip that over the heel. Now this cover is stretchy, which, once I show you in a moment, is actually pretty neat. Go ahead and get the telescoping sunshade covered up, just like so. Now you have access to your focus ring through the cutouts on the bottom and the top. and the ability to use the rotating collar right down here. It is stretchy, so if you were to go a little bit past where that cutout is, hey, ain't a problem. Let's get that lined right back up. Now, these hook into little clips that we have here. Let me go ahead and get these fastened on. Just like so. This particular type of cover is meant to just be pulled right on or right off for pretty easy use in the field. And as we've found out in the recent past, it's also a good way to cover up in the event of a sudden emergency sandstorm. Let's put that eyepiece cover on there, cover it up. Now, down at the objective lens, we have here the cap. That fits in pretty tight, and it will fit in when the sunshade is pressed all the way down. Its end has clasps just like down at the eyepiece, so we'll go ahead and get those hooked in now as well. And let's get this flipped out as well. This end, just like down at the eyepiece. Pull that, get it out of the way. I tend to leave this actually in that little pocket, so I don't ever worry about losing it. Same for down at the eyepiece. Take the cap off, slip it right there in the pocket, and you're good to go. Now you better believe that as soon as that camera turns off, I'm gonna pack this up in the car, drive on over to our spot in the desert, mount my phone on that end, and capture some clear, crisp, summertime air under the desert sun as we watch bullets fly as far as we can make them reliably hit. I hope you all have a wonderful time out there, and whatever it is that you're doing, keep a clear view of it. Take it easy.